Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Okay. Good morning, councillors and officers. Welcome to the meeting for the 12th of July, our ordinary council meeting. Firstly, I'd like to begin with the acknowledgement to country. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land in which we meet today, the Dhurrumbal people, and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. Also extend that respect to our neighbouring Aboriginal peoples within our local government area, the Gungaloo Nation people, the Barada, Cabelbarra and Yeddamarala people. Also acknowledge the Torres Strait Islander peoples whose land is on the Torres Straits but who live and work on Aboriginal land. Good morning, councillors. We have a reasonably light agenda, but I'm not sure how long that'll take depending on the questions. But we have another budget briefing, and then we're also into a workshop after that, so we'll have a bit of a... I know. I'm trying to set the tone, councillor, but that said, we have Councillor Smith, who is an apology, and it's online, and Councillor Fisher, he's said he'd be here shortly, so we'll have a full house. Councillors, confirmation of the previous minutes. Could I seek a mover and a seconder with regards to the confirmation of the minutes? Sorry, and firstly, remiss of me, we need to have an opening prayer, and could I invite Reverend David Alley from the Beast Baptist Church to open our meeting with a blessing. Thank you.
Heavenly Father, we are so grateful for all you do for us, and we thank you this fine day for the city of Rockhampton and for the blessings that we have in living here. And I thank you, Lord, for the fine leadership we have in the city, our mayor and our councillors and all our public servants. And this morning we would ask your blessing upon them and upon our city, that they would have your favour and grace as they perform their functions on behalf of us all. And today we ask, Lord, your wisdom to be at work and your grace at work in this meeting as they make decisions for the good of us all. So, Lord, we thank you for your blessing and your favour. In the name of Jesus, amen. Blessings.
Thank you very much, Reverend Alley, and my apologies, I was too quick to get this meeting rolling, so thank you. Thanks, Councillor Rutherford. We'll get back to item 4, the confirmation of the previous minutes from the 28th of June. Could I seek a mover and a seconder that those records are true and accurate? To that, for that meeting, move Councillor Kirkland. Have a seconder, Councillor Wickerson. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? I'm not sure if I can see Councillor Smith online. Yep, it's in favour, thank you. So motion's carried unanimously. Thanks very much. Councillor, moving on to item 5, declarations of interest in matters on the agenda. Councillors, I'm not sure whether we've passed any through. Has there any been recorded? If not, and one comes up as we move through the meeting, by all means let us know and we can record that at the time. If there's no declarations, we'll move on to item 6, business outstanding. We have an item there, 6.1, that matters be lifted from the table to deal with item 6.2, the CQ Rock funding for the 2022-23 financial year. Could I seek a mover and a seconder that we lift the item off the table? Move Councillor Wickerson, seconded Councillor Rutherford. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. And Council, we had some discussions on this yesterday, but there is I have a resolution there to put forward. Yes, if you could please, Evan, and I'd seek a seconder with regards to that. Councillor Latcham. Okay. Oh no, there's not that. There's the words are there. I presented that this morning.
Mr. Mayor, I can't see the screen.
Yeah, we're just putting the resolution up, and we'll pass that across there, Councillor Smith, before you give you time to have a look at it. The council agreed to the membership for the fee for the CQ Rock for the 80,000 for the 22-23 year. And that we be satisfied with all other members that are acting in the collaborative manner, in line with the principal objects of the company. You can drop the brackets off the end of it there. No, drop that out to the 31st. I was looking at 6 monthly one, but take that out as well. So it's for the next 12 months, councillors, and that we just look at in the principles of the objective and the charter of the CQ Rock. I'll move, and Councillor Latcham second. I'll speak to the motion that council we support the CQ Rock for the next 12 months and just try to work on the collaboration and the goodwill, which are the principles of the CQ Rock in the betterment for promoting the Central Queensland region, and that's the intention. But to again for the next 12 months to see how that goes. Councillor Smith, are you able to see that resolution?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
I've moved, and Councillor Latcham seconded. Councillors, if there's any further comments or discussion, I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thanks very much, councillors. Moving on to our next item, no public forum deputations, no petitions, no committee reports, council delegate reports. 10.1, Leave of absence for Councillor Drew Wickerson from the 22nd of July to the 8th of August 2022. I'm happy to move. Seek a seconder. Councillor Rutherford. I know, that's always the worry with these ones, but yeah. Council, I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. And we'll move on to our officers' reports. 11.1, the draft 22-23 operational plan. Alyssa, we might ask you to present that report for us, please.
Thank you, Mayor, and good morning, councillors. So this report is seeking council's in principle approval of our 2022-23 operational plan, together with the performance plans for our 3 business units. Councillors would be familiar with these documents now. They've all been presented over the course of the preceding months, and the councillor feedback has now been incorporated into the document before you. This is the first time councillors would have seen the publication version, complete with photos and the graphics. And the purpose of this report is to simply give councillors a final opportunity to review the documents before they are presented next week, together with the budget for adoption. There is a XXX, which needs to be completed on page 6 of the op plan, which is the final financial number, which will be in there next week. But other than that, the draft is there ready to go. So happy to take any questions. If not, seek endorsement.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rutherford, question?
Thank you. I've got a couple, Mr Mayor, and mostly on the FRW report, because I don't think we had seen, so yes, we had seen that. And I am trying to scroll through to find it.
No, you're right.
When we did go through it, I had asked, it only has, it doesn't have our full 50,000 meg water allocation anywhere in the report, and I thought that that was fairly important to have in there. We've got 29,228 megalitres, and I'm guessing that's what we use, but nowhere in there does it register the 50,000 megs as an asset.
I'll ask Peter to reply to that one. Thanks, Peter.
I'm just bringing up that document. Yes, that is referring to the usage of the water.
Usage, not the overall one.
Not the allocation, yes.
Should it have the allocation in there? I think the question, Peter, the overall...
We could insert it in another location, the document, if you like.
I thought that's what we'd agreed to last time when we spoke, that it would be somewhere so that that allocation was actually registered in that document and
is there
there's
not a problem with that, adding somewhere else?
No, I don't see an issue. I'll just look at where the best place to locate.
Okay. Righto. Further question, Councillor Rutherford?
Yeah, I've got a few, Mr
Yeah,
Mayor.
no, you're right.
So I was just wondering, the 20 working days for complaints, that seemed a little bit high for me. I didn't know, because it says excluding maintenance and water and sewerage services. So if it was a general complaint was, 20 working days, that's 4 weeks.
I don't think it's changed. Has there been a change at all there, Peter, or is there a reason for that timeline?
Through the chair, these KPIs have been in place for some time. I was going to fully revise this document, but we just haven't got the resources to do it or the manager in place. So I've chosen just to put the report up as in the format you've had for the last many years. So I accept that we should review this document and look at the KPIs, but there was just not the window to do it this cycle.
Yeah, and I accept that, Mr Mayor.
And we're still
think
recruiting for a position in FRW there.
Yes, and I certainly accept that, but I think we should always look to improve these outcomes if there's a possibility. You know, if we really think we're not meeting those targets, then you don't. But if, you know, we can meet them, improve them, then that's what I would have thought we should be doing. The next question was about the raising the access chambers. And I just wondered how many more access chambers would be left to raise? We've been doing this for quite some time, so how many more are left? Is it a never-ending job, or do we see the end of it at some point?
That's a technical one, and I'll let Peter respond to that.
Yeah, look,
Peter?
through the chair, I have no idea.
They're ongoing.
But
Ongoing.
in terms of the types of things I want to know about FRW assets, that's way down on my list. But we will, as we look at assets, establish those things in terms of a maintenance program.
All right. And then I guess, Mr Mayor, the other one was in the delegated authorities, and because of where we are with FRW at the moment, it talks about the management having autonomy, and I just wonder whether we need a little stronger oversight at this this point,
and I think-
and that should be written into the document, or
I think-
autonomy should be taken out of the document.
Yeah, and I'll let Peter answer that one. It's one that, I've spoken about with Peter as well.
Yeah, look, there's been a lot of discussion about this, and that word or those words were edited, but it felt like we were butchering the document. But if you want to delete the word autonomy, that's fine. It's not going to change the pure governance that sits around FRW right now. But if you want to delete the word, that's fine. But the thing that needs to be done is to look at the entire agreement and the governance structure around FRW. That's what needs to be done.
And I think our us two we've got organised can help talk about some of these things when we got some boots on the ground going around and having a look, and some discussion around that as we go forward as well. Thank you, Peter. Councillor Rutherford?
I'm not sure of the exact wording, but I would like to have something there that does acknowledge that it needs to be collaborative with the council table, certainly at the moment. And so, Mr CEO, can you offer any advice? Is it purely taking the words management autonomy out, or is there something?
What page is that on? That?
We're on page 35 of the document, which I think is 36 of the agenda, and it's under delegated authorities.
We'll have a look at the words. Right now, the current agreement between the two organisations has FRW is a commercialised business unit that was set up in 1999 to deliver water and wastewater services on behalf of RRC as the registered water service provider, who has the ultimate responsibility for compliance. So that's the current wording at the level above this document.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I might have a think. I just have trouble.
I don't think we could change that on at this meeting. I think.
No, I do wonder about the
We need to-
delegation, and if we've got a little bit of time, maybe we can have a look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's all for the FRW one.
Yep.
If someone has any other questions.
Did you have Councillor Wickerson? Do you have a question on FRW? Or?
No.
Okay. Well, I'll go to you while I've got the light on. Your
Okay,
question?
Mayor. No, thank you. This is on page 50 of the agenda, or 2 of the draft document, and it's under economic development and future growth. Now, since we looked at the original draft, we had Greg Bowden present that excellent report about circular economy. So while this talks about capitalising on new and emerging opportunities in the various sectors, whether that's resource and construction or agriculture or others, and I know that I'm guessing that environment sustainability isn't an industry sector but it sort of is in other ways as well, whether we shouldn't put that also into that list of emerging opportunities. I mean, we spoke about the circular economy, and some of those principles certainly apply to these industry areas as well, the resource sector particularly. But it's an opportunity in its own right. So I'm just wondering whether to insert environment sustainability in that paragraph somewhere to just flag that there may be other emerging opportunities. We spoke of some the other day with even our own sewage plants and things, if there's some funding available to mitigate environmental impacts.
Yep.
Just suggesting it for comment, I guess.
We might take that one on.
Yeah, we might. That's probably just a bit of a looking at. So these key focus areas, that's the section of the document you're referring to, Councillor Wickerson. They're essentially a summary of then the actions and targets elsewhere in the document. So we'll just have to make sure that what we're saying there is linking in and aligned.
Yeah, no, understood.
From memory, there is a circular economy action, so it's just a question of does that actually fit in this particular part, but it is mentioned elsewhere in the document.
Yeah.
Right, I can
Okay.
take that on note and have a look and come back to you on that one. Councillor Rutherford.
Mr Mayor, just one more, and it's with the airport document, and it was probably just the return on assets at 1.8%. That's not a big return on that asset, so should we be expecting more from that?
Ross, would you like to?
And given the climate we're in, I understand all that, but if we don't push for a little bit more, then how do we get more?
It's a good question, Councillor. That is something I've been looking at for a while. That actually return on assets for airport is actually quite good. It's way above Sydney Airport. For example, I didn't bring my numbers with me. I've had them for all the other meetings. What I do think we do need to look at, though, is different measures to what's in there, like on how we actually do measure airport performance. Because there's a lot goes into an airport, like in the research I've been doing is it's hard to, like public owned ones are different to commercially owned ones. So, but by and large it says we should be looking at return on profit is what we should actually probably be looking at and how we do that. So I started doing a bit of work. I've been talking to, had first level talk with Marnie and Evan on how we actually can actually bring some better measurements into it. But return on assets, my research is not a particularly good measure, even though it's a standard one. But so that 1.8 is actually pretty good compared to Sydney Airport Corporation, for example.
Was there not a time, not that long ago, we were sitting at 3% or 4% on return on that asset?
I don't recall, Councillor, to be honest. It could have been up that 3-ish%, but it's still not. If you're looking at a standard commercial return on, say, investment properties and that, it's not still up there. But that's not the sort of targets we're looking at. It all comes back to capital structures and how you finance your capital, all that sort of stuff. It's quite a complex beast on how to measure it, but my own personal view is you look at your return on profit, the actual dollars that come back.
Yeah, I guess that's not what this document is saying, but so, if this is the document that we're living by, then, we either have to rewrite them so that they are something we can achieve rather than having a document that just covers off on what we're already doing.
No, as a requirement we have to have this document, but Right.
I think you get a better understanding of the operations and assets and like in the path forward, the plan forward, and then come back to what the return is back to the council on that. I think that's all work in progress, especially with the current climate, with the restrictions and the pandemic have impacted our airport severely. So it's a matter of just trying to get along with trying to get things back into normality, so to speak. Thanks, Councillor Rutherford. Further question? Thank you. Councillors, could I see, if there's no further questions on that report, could I seek a mover and a seconder with regards to that, please? Councillor Kirkland, have a seconder. Councillor Wickerson, I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Councillor Smith, did you? Yep, thank you. Motion's carried unanimously. Thanks, Alyssa.
Mr Mayor, I did mean to say I think the documents look brilliant actually, so congratulations and thank you. They've really come up very well, so thank you to the staff.
Thanks, Councillor Rutherford. It's we seem to be just picking the issues that, that we see that the public would want us to be asking, but that's forgetting about the work and the presentation of those reports that a lot of the officers spend their time on and providing that detail of information. So thanks for raising that. Councillor, we move on to item 11.2, the Vintage Reds and Alliance Airlines Gold Day sponsorship. Greg online for that one. Can you present that report, please, Greg?
I am Mayor and councillors. Good morning. This is a report that I'm really presenting on behalf of the airport, but it is when Marcus and I spoke, agreed that probably could come through economic development, but funded through the airport. So Alliance Airlines approached us re-sponsorship of their upcoming golf day, where they'll bring the Vintage Reds and a number of key business people from southeast Queensland and Sydney with them. So we thought it was appropriate that we sponsor one of the holes at this event, just from an economic development point of view. So as the recommendation says, that we sponsor the Queensland and Vintage Reds Alliance Airlines Golf Day for the amount of $1,500.
Okay, Greg, any questions, councillors, to that one? I think it's, again, getting the Alliance name out there in the region. It's a great one, and one there that we participate in sponsorship with these types of events throughout the year anyway. I'm happy to move, seek a seconder. Councillor Mathers, I'll put that. If there are no questions, those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thanks, councillors. 11.3, the Capricorn 2022 Tender Consideration Plan. Again, Greg,
yes,
while you're online.
Yes, Mayor and councillors, thank you. This is the standard tender consideration plan under the Act that we've done for Capricorn in the past and also other major events. It just allows us to procure goods and services more expediently, but still under the Act. We need to pass this tender consideration plan for the Capricorn event. So I think the recommendation speaks for itself. It's under the Act, under S230, and really just it helps us expediently do things for the event.
Okay, thanks very much, Greg. Councillor Wickerson.
Thanks, Mayor. Happy to move this. But there's one question I had, and it's on page 64 of the agenda, and it's talking about just market stalls and vendors. And there's a line over in the third column that says, no trade to sell of the same merchandise or offering. I think what's getting is you can't have two widget sellers side by side. But we do that at the show. We have many vendors that are similar. So I'm just wondering, if it's first in best dress, there might be someone that's upset by that. I've had cases in the past where someone's just missed out on getting in first and they have a little bit to say about that. I'm just wondering if there's a smoother way of doing it, that maybe if there's two widget sellers there, that we just ask them, are you happy for a second one to be there?
And I'm not sure as whether you get 10 of the same. That's maybe the reason they're doing that, but I'm not sure. I'll ask Greg to respond to that one, Councillor Wickerson. I'll get the point.
Sure, Mayor and Councillor Wickerson. We do use a little bit of a judgment call there as well. There has to be a little bit of flexibility. Of course, we certainly tried not to put them next to each other or anything like that, but sometimes we do have to make a bit of a judgment call, and it might be 2 might be okay, but 5 may not be. So it really is just a bit of a judgment call, the event coordinator on the ground at the time.
Yeah, no, I'm happy with that. If there was like an upper limit of whatever that number is, if you don't want 10 there, but a couple probably wouldn't hurt, no matter what it is.
Yes.
As long as it's taken sort of fairly. Thank you.
Yeah, and that'd probably depend on overall number of stores as well, Councillor. So I'm sure there's some discretion in that place, and leave that with the officers. Yeah. Councillor Rutherford.
Mr Mayor, just to support Councillor Wickerson there as well, and probably to Greg when he's looking at things like that, is I have had people speak to me because they've been local and they've missed out. So we've had people come from out of town, they've been got first in very quickly, come in from out of town, and our local stall holders have missed out. So if we could just be aware of that if we are limiting numbers.
Okay, Greg, I'm sure we'll need to take that into consideration as well. Again, I'd say there'd be discretion there by the officers to accommodate that in their ways.
Yes, Mayor and councillors, just very quickly to address that, Eileen Brown has just texted me to say we certainly have a weighting towards local. Our challenge with the locals are they apply very late, and we've usually accepted one or two of the others before they even come and see us, and then that's when usually when the complaints come through to you. But certainly, if they apply expediently, there is a weighting towards local, without a doubt.
No, and I can echo that comment. I've organised a few functions over my time, and market stalls is one I don't really want to put my hand up to do in the future, but I know the pain in that space sometimes. Okay, councillors. Councillor Wickerson moved the officer's recommendation. If there's no further questions, could I seek a seconder? Councillor Kirkland, I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Move on to item 11.4, the Local Government Association Queensland Annual Conference. Councillors, there's a position there for two councillors to attend the Local Government Association Annual Conference in Cairns this year from the 17th to the 19th of October. Councillors, is there anyone particularly interested? I think Councillor Fisher had indicated he may want to go, but I was thinking I may attend as well. Councillor Latcham?
Yes, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I'd like to attend. I'd get a lot of value out of going to these events. Been to the first two, and I get a tremendous amount of the networking and learning from the LGAQ conference.
Yeah, can I put my own name up? And I'll just check with other councillors too, and I understand if there's new councillors that haven't been, that we really like to try and not have all of us go, but try and share the opportunity as well. Councillor Mathers and Councillor Kirkland and Councillor Rutherford.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. Yeah, look, I think it's great that we're allocating two councillors to represent. Unfortunately, I won't be available to go, so I'm not throwing my hat in the ring, but I'm just aware that, I'd like to see that we're putting fresh people there. That I think obviously as mayor, you're the representative. I think you certainly should go, but I just think we should mix up the other person just to make sure everyone's getting the experience of it, and they've got you there as the experience as well.
And just to highlight, Councillor Fisher had mentioned that there's a LawMac, and they wanted to meet with all the mayors in that LawMac capacity up there as well. So he was indicating he may wish to attend. Councillor Kirkland, then Councillor Rutherford.
Oh, thanks, Mr Mayor. As a rule, the Reef Guardian Council executive also meet at the end of that conference. Happy to zoom into that if other people are wanting to go, but it's always a great thing to meet with the Reef Guardian Council in person. It's not something we get to do very often. And I do love going to the conference, but that being said, happy to step back and let others go in. If there's a space though, I'm keen.
Councillor Rutherford.
Mr Mayor, probably similar along the lines Councillor Mathers just said. I think we can't be sending lots of people to these things anymore. So I think it does need to rotate a little bit. I know Councillor Wickerson hasn't been to one for quite some time, and there tends to be this same where we sit back and try and let everyone have a shot, and I think it needs to.
Look, we can send more than two councillors. I think there's opportunity. If Councillor Wickerson wants to go and Councillor Latcham, I think there's opportunity for that. But with the voting rights, we probably need myself and Deputy Mayor in that space. Councillor Kirkland.
Sorry, no, it hasn't had to be that way before.
With the voting,
with the voting, no.
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 No. Well, no. Doesn't matter. No.
So, and obviously, you always get first.
Yep.
There's no sort of denying that.
Council, I'm open to people going. I think it's important. We need to network and be in that space as well. And this is one of the major events for the year. So I'm not overly concerned about the numbers that we go to this one, because it is one I think we get quality from representation at, and if there's more people want to go, just trying to work out the voting rights on that in that space. So I'd be guided by people putting their hand up. So, Councillor Kirkland.
Oh, thanks, Mr Mayor. I was just going to say I would support Councillor Wickerson going if he's wanting to go, because he's certainly, part of his, what is it, Deputy chair of the environment portfolio. I don't know what you call that,
Oh,
but yeah.
Communities and
Assistant
heritage, there's lots of...
So he could certainly go to that.
Colin speaking.
You there, Councillor Smith?
Hey, mate, I'll have to ring you back. I'm on council video conference.
I think you're on the speaker there, Councillor
Nothing
Smith.
urgent.
I think you got your mic on, Councillor Smith. We got that phone call. Oh, did you? Yeah, okay. So if we want to give Councillor... I think what I'm hearing is have Councillor Wickerson with the voting rights in this one, and then invite Councillors Latcham and Fisher to attend the conference. So that'll be
I'll
four.
have to find out Councillor Fisher is actually attending as LawMac executive.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, so I'll have to...
We might just move the three at this stage and then leave that open with Councillor Fisher for another one. So myself and Councillor Wickerson with the voting rights, and Councillor Latcham attend as a delegate. Yeah, that's the word. And then also Councillor Fisher would just need to... Oh, here he is. No, you're right. We're just on the annual conference for the LGAQ, and just wondering your capacity. Would you be there as the LawMac representative as well?
Just
go to the mic.
So yeah, I'm just on the Monday. That's when there's just the associated meetings. There's a LawMac meeting which we're hoping to invite the mayors to, and then available to be the delegate for the rest of the conference.
Okay. Put four. We'll take four, and I think we're just with the voting rights, myself and Councillor Wickerson in that space, just shuffling it around, and then yourself and Councillor Latcham, delegates to the conference attending. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay, councillors, we'll just get the wording. And, I'll be happy to move. Take a second. I'm happy to move. Could I seek a second to Councillor Wickerson? Councillor Fisher, did you have a question or? No. Okay, that said, I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Yep. Okay, Council, we move on to our next item, item 11.5, development permit for material change of use for telecommunication facilities. And Kathy, is it? Yes, you'll present that report. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr Mayor and councillors. So this development application is for a material change of use for a telecommunications facility located at 652 to 664 Norman Road, Norman Gardens. No. Oh. Yeah. The subject site is located in the low-density residential zone under the Rockhampton Region Planning Scheme. The site is approximately 9.82 hectares in size and accommodates the Rockhampton Baptist Church located in the southwest corner. The remainder of the site is vacant land with sparse to dense vegetation, and surrounding the site are single detached dwelling houses located in the same zone. Not working. Next slide. Can we go next slide? Thank you. So the proposed development will see the construction of a 30-metre tall Have I got it upside down? Okay. The proposed development will see the construction of a 30-metre tall telecommunications facility that will be located centrally within the site, with an approximate 200-metre setback to Norman Road and 100+ setback to the nearest dwelling house. These significant setbacks, along with the surrounding dense vegetation on the subject site, will assist in reducing its perceived height and bulk. The facility will accommodate both 4G and 5G services and will be purposely designed and constructed to allow for co-location of up to 3 carriers, which will minimise the number of these structures within the council area. No, I'm going back the other way. There we go. The facility will be a monopole design, which is a narrow structure and will be finished with neutral low contrast colours, further minimising its visual impact. The facility will ensure increased efficiency and reliability in the delivery of telecommunication services in the surrounding community. So as you can see from the current area mapping in Figure 1 compared to Figure 2, showing the improved service area arising from the proposed facility. The application was subject to public notification for 15 business days and 18 properly made submissions were received. All of the matters raised in the submissions have been summarised in the report and addressed as part of Council's assessment. The development generally complies with the provisions included in the applicable planning scheme codes and is not anticipated to compromise the strategic framework. Technical reporting demonstrates there will be no adverse health impacts from the electromagnetic radiation, and where conflicts have been identified in the assessment, benchmarks regarding structure, height and separation to sensitive land uses, regard to relevant matters being a clear planning need, are considered to outweigh those conflicts. Therefore, the application is recommended for approval subject to the conditions outlined in the report.
Okay, thanks very much, Kathy. Questions, councillors? Councillor Latcham and Councillor Rutherford and Councillor Kirkman. Councillor Latcham.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I've been out on the ground and I've listened to most of the residents that have an adjoining boundary to the Peace Baptist Church on Norman Road. I can say most of them, no conflict?
Not the Peace Baptist Church.
Oh, sorry. The Tabernacle, sorry. The one on Norman Road, and of the 23 residents, households that I'd talked to...
Is it a question?
Oh, sorry, and out of that they raised a lot of questions. Some of them have been mentioned here. Questions I've got, the first one is they talk about alternate locations, and it was suggested by some of these residents that I mentioned that there was potentially other locations. The wording I'm kind of concerned about is it talks about in here, however provided no viable alternative suggestions. The word viable, what viable to who and what definition viable?
I suppose that was probably in terms of, sorry, through the chair, in terms of the service location. So when the site selection process was undertaken, they had a look at current sites that already had telecommunications towers and approved but not yet constructed, and the level of service that it provides when it's constructed. So I know in the submitters' submissions there was talk of the CQ University sites. However, putting it there wouldn't give it the same, because there was already one closer down Farm Street which would give it the same area of service, is probably where that was.
Okay, Farm Street, you mean off the end of the road, at the back of the Caltex?
Yeah, it was approved not long ago.
Which is still, I'd imagine, minimum 400 metres difference between there and where, say, Parkhurst Pony Cottage,
Yeah,
for example. So in a radius, I'd imagine it's about the same location.
Yeah, so if you look at Figure 2, and you can see how it spreads out like a T shape. So if moving it back, it would like miss all of those houses closer to the range.
Just not sure of that one, Kathy. Might try and get the pointer there just to show that it...
That way, I keep doing it back to front and I'm pressing the back button. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, so this is the service area that it will protrude out into. And I think the CQ site is down here further, which is already quite serviced.
So if I could, probably just to help Mr Mayor, if I could.
Yeah.
So on Figure 1, where the red dot is around that, there's no,
That is
there is insufficient service.
Yeah.
And so hence that's why they've
Yep.
chose that site for the tower, and that's in figure 2, shows its service area from there.
And that, yeah, that's where it extends to. Now, the one you mentioned before there, Kathy, was at the back of Farm Street or somewhere else, another location?
Yes. That is in the centre zone, and I don't know exactly where it is on the map,
Yep. But it's
unfortunately.
Back of the Celtics.
back of the Caltex off
Airpole now.
Highway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you know
It doesn't
that
show that on there.
It is down, it is, yes, it's
Yeah,
down there
okay.
somewhere, yeah.
Right. But it's, yeah, the coverage is, the
Yep.
spot there wouldn't. be
This
able
one will help, they will actually, when the one down there is constructed, the Ts will actually link up and provide that service all the way across that area through here.
Okay, Councillor Latcham?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. So the next question I've got is, it's regarding the height. There's a few different outcomes it doesn't comply with. One of them was the height, being 30 metres, and it talks about vegetation of a similar height. And from my inspection, it looks like the vegetation in that area is about 15 to 20 metres high. So there's another 10 metres that it goes beyond the existing trees in there. Now, I'm not sure of the wording, whether it's got to be similar means 2/3 or... but I also do understand how these things now work, and they go on wave bands. So if you were to have something at 30 metres high, it would defeat the purpose of having it there. So I understand that side of it, but my question is, with the trees that are already there, the 15, 20 metre high ones, is that still fits within that guidelines of similar?
I believe so. When I did this, so I went as well, went out on site and did a height
Appraisal?
assessment. And again, so I had where the telecommunications device is going, the trees were around the 20 to 25 metres. So I believe that's of a similar height, and obviously will then as well grow taller in years to come.
Okay. And next question, if I may. It's mentioned as from these submissions, the poor public consultation notification. I know myself when I went out there, when I was first alerted to this application, and they had the advertising signs for it on Norman Road, I noticed that was face down.
Yes.
So obviously there was a period of time where people weren't aware of...
Yeah, so I, through the chair, I went out on site. So council was alerted to the fact that one of the signs had fallen down or had been taken down, and so that morning that we got notified, I went out on site. They didn't know or couldn't tell us how long the sign had been down for, but when I got out there, it had actually been picked back up and put up against a tree. However, there was another public notification sign that was further down, closer to the lights on Norman Road, and as per the requirements, only one sign needs to be up and facing the road frontage, so it still complied with the requirements.
Because, yeah, it was that sign that was actually down, the one at the lights was actually the one facing...
Was the one down? Oh, so I had it the other way around when I went out on site. It was the other one that was down.
The other one off Rosewood Drive, the Lanswood Close, it was always there. It's tucked away in a little cul-de-sac. But the one on Norman Road, which is the central one, it was face down.
There was two on Norman Road.
I didn't even see the second one.
Yeah, it was there was one closer to the lights and one a bit further down.
I'll just let other councillors have their say first, so I can come back, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Latcham. Councillor Rutherford, then Councillor Kirkland.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Kathy, when is this likely to be built?
So the applicant has advised that when they do receive the co-locators on the site, when it is deemed necessary, I suppose. So it's not something that's going to be built tomorrow, if approved.
Mr Mayor...
probably the question, though, is there a timeline on that approval? Is there a...
Yeah, sorry, MCU is 6 years, so they'll have 6 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
6 years, yeah. Mr Mayor, this was one of the reasons why I kept trying to push that our town planning, we went into this and looked at our buffer zones where these things could go. So it worries me that these planning approvals are going through so quickly with a long build time, because the thing that worries me particularly with this one is it basically sterilises a beautiful block of land.
Yep.
It's smack bang in the middle of a beautiful block of land. And regardless of what that block of land's used for today, I suspect in the future it's going to become quite a valuable block of, or would have become quite a valuable block of land, particularly when we look at residential development and the need for it in that area. And I can't see any sense. When I look at this compared to the Struck Oil Tower and the spread that the Struck Oil Tower could reach with its whatever it sends out, whatever the technical term of that is, this seems to be a baby in size. I don't understand why it only covers such a small area when the one at Struck Oil could hit Bouldercombe and Bejewel.
Yep, I'm not sure I've got the...
It doesn't make any sense. To me, they're choosing whatever is easy and whatever is cheap to build and not taking into consideration the community that's around them. You know, we have trouble fighting an argument about the electromagnetic emissions because there's always...
Councillor, it might be a question rather than getting into debate on it.
Oh, true, I am debating. So I probably have exhausted
the question.
My
question
questions,
at this time.
Mr. Mayor. Yeah.
No worries, that's all right. Thank you.
I'll save it up.
Thank you. Councillor Kirkland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just pinging off what, or chiming in on what Councillor Rutherford has just said there about the usage of this particular parcel of land moving down the track. Obviously, this document illustrates to us that if the tower is built, then nothing negates anything else actually being able to happen with this land. It's 9.82 hectares. It could be home to 800 square metre lots, around 100 to 120 lots of properties there that couldn't happen. I'm wondering whether, I have some questions here for you. In the assessment benchmarks, were the Telecommunications Code of Practice 2021, was that considered in the benchmarks? And the Mobile Phone Base Station Deployment Code, were they considered in the benchmarks as well?
Yes.
I don't see them listed there. That's the only reason I'm asking that question.
So the Telecommunications Code
Of Practice 2021. You've got Telecommunications Facilities and Utilities Code. Is that the same one or a different one?
I am not.
Just coming off, because I did a lot of reading on this. I really, Kathy, appreciate the work that you guys do, and you're definitely very qualified in everything that you do. But one of the things that we're asked to do as councillors is to present to you questions that the community might be asking of us when they come across this documentation. So that's what I'm trying to do today, is having read through the documentation as well as going online to the State Australian Communications and Media Authority.
Is it a question, Councillor?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is questions because, like what Councillor Latcham has said, there's a number of non-compliances in here that you've mitigated. My main concern is the 100-metre distance. The regulatory requirements, as per legislation, are for a minimum of 150 metres. You've basically said that that's okay. We're happy to accommodate something that's 100 metres from residences. I want to know how far away this is from the childcare centre, and how, because that's not in your diagram that you've got there. You haven't actually got the metres away from the childcare centre that's nearby and the nursing home that's nearby.
Yes, so through the chair, probably that one is better. So the childcare centre up a bit further, so this is the aged care centre, and it's was just over 150 metres away, which meets the setback requirement for also childcare and aged care.
So it's just
sensitive ones.
Just over 150?
Yes, it is. Yes.
And how far is the childcare centre?
It was well over 150, so I'm not sure of the exact metres though, sorry.
Because I did look at you know, I don't know whether your diagram was illustrative of real time. I was just questioning it, that's all. I'm just looking here. I've been through the document at large. Yep, sorry.
Evan?
If I could, through the Mayor, and probably a question for Amanda and Kathy. The planning scheme document that you're assessing the application under does not deal with the emissions from the tower, correct? We deal with it in relation to locality, site, and so the emissions have to be dealt with by another authority, which is the radio, or whoever they are. So we can only assess it on the planning grounds in line with the planning scheme, not on the emissions.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a
Yep.
question to what the CEO just said? But if it says that 150 metres is the required, and we're going, well, no, we've decided that you can be 50 metres or 100 metres, then we're making a judgment call. So we are assessing it.
That's under the planning scheme that has those rules. So you're assessing under the planning scheme rules, not under the emissions. So if it's within that 150 metres, yes, you are making a judgment decision there, but it's not around it doesn't talk about distance away from other types of services provided out there. So just defining the difference. So planning grounds versus the emissions. I think, sorry, I might be an answer in your question before.
Well, yes, Mr. CEO, I did look at the ARPANSA standard for limiting exposure in radio frequency fields as well, which is what they would have submitted as their radio frequency, and it's based on 6 minutes exposure and how far away the tower actually has to be before it, etc. It was very, very difficult to navigate that document, so I'm hoping that you all have the expertise to validate that what they've presented is true and correct.
I'll ask, Amanda's got, did you want to?
Sorry, yeah, just through the chair. So we are only assessing application against assessment benchmark within.
Is that on?
So those action they referenced earlier on aren't relevant to our assessment. The setback.
I don't think you're on. Are you on?
Can't hear you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I think it needs to
Can't
be
hear
green.
Amanda?
Amanda, I think it's green.
Sorry, I thought it was on when it was lit up. Sorry, my fault. So the assessment benchmark, you know, when you're talking about 150 metres, that's just an acceptable solution. So it's a performance-based assessment that we undertake, and that setback's not necessarily in regard to the EME. The EME is not assessed by us. The reports, there's a separate agency that will assess that. And when you're looking at distances, it's not unusual in town. For example, this one, I think Kathy advised yesterday, it was of the safe limit, it was only 1.7%. We've got telecommunication towers in town that are around 12% that are within 20 metres of a dwelling house. So this one, in comparison to what's existing within the region, is well within the range, the acceptable range. And again, it's not up to us to determine that. We have no say in that whatsoever. We're only assessing that land use is appropriate for that location. So we're looking at things such as visual amenity, and a big aspect of this approval is the relevant matters, so the actual planning, like the need for this, and that has been demonstrated quite well by the applicant, that to service and get coverage to that area, we class this as necessary infrastructure for the region. With COVID, there's been a lot of changes to people working from home and these services, and the demand for this coverage with years to come is required in that area, and that's why this particular site has been selected.
Okay, thanks, Amanda. Councillor Jacqueline?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks very much for clarifying that for me, Amanda. So that if that ARPANSA are satisfied, then we should be satisfied. Is that what you were basically saying?
It does meet the standards. So 1.70 from the dwelling houses is the standard that they set, which is also regulated by the ACMA. So,
yeah, I suppose I'm just looking at the risk versus benefit of the facility. How many houses, looking at the map that you showed us before, with the reach of this tower, how many houses benefit from the new better Wi-Fi versus how many may be at some risk. It says here that there's no risk. I see on page 25 of the report, it will not, however, adversely impact on the health or safety of nearby residents. My question is that guaranteed? And so if somebody gets sick or if somebody's child is, you know...
Yeah, but it's not our... We're not being asked that question.
But if that was to happen, is it our responsibility? Is it our fault because we've actually said yes to this facility, or does it fall back onto the telecommunications people?
Company and the approving authority. We're not the approving authority for the emissions. We don't hold that emissions, the transmission licence, or issue the transmission licence. So it's not us.
Okay.
It's only the planning grounds that we assess it against.
So that's clear that it's not going to fall back on council or
No,
somebody.
we're only approving the location on the planning grounds, not the emission side of it.
So the benefit is that how many houses will receive a better coverage? Figure 2.
I would roughly say over...
That's the green area. I think the officer could take that question on notice of how many they actually pick up, because you don't have the number of houses it benefits, so we won't surmise with the answer with that one. It's that green coverage area is where it sits, and probably, if I could, Mr Mayor, to probably help the councillors generally, not answering Councillor Kirkland's question, but more to yours, Councillor Rutherford. From what I understand, these sites only take up, there's only so much, let's say, volume that they can actually transmit over. And also going from 3G to 5G, their actual range has reduced down as well, but the actual towers themselves can only have a capacity of actually transmitting and receiving X amount of data or X amount of connections. So hence that's why they make them smaller in these urban areas, whereas in the rural areas, they change the transmission type and that actually transmits out further, because that volume, you know, let's say that one there, and that might service 150 or 250 houses, whereas the one down at Boulder Cone probably services, or Struckwell will service 250, but it takes it over a bigger area. So.
Councillor Kirkland?
Yeah, I suppose my main concern is exactly the same as what Councillor Rutherford has had there.
Is there a question there, Councillor?
Yeah. No. If the people who own the land wanted to later subdivide, would they be able to do that?
Again, we're not being asked about the future of the land, and that's the owner of the land's their decision. We can't refuse an application on future use of that land that somebody else owns.
Is that not a valid question? Because if...
Well, I've just answered it, Councillor. I mean, it's not our decision-making to stop a development happening on somebody's land because of the future use of that land.
But isn't
Planning
the tower...
grounds.
Doesn't the
Can planner explain that? We can't...
Through the chair, so there are currently no approvals over the site for a residential use.
No.
And there has been no application submitted for a residential use for this site.
No, I understand that, but in the...
I think what the councillors are saying, can they refuse the application on the grounds that that land will be sterilised for other use in the future? That's not a council decision.
No. No, so future applications for residential uses on that site could be submitted. There's no reasons why they couldn't submit an application.
It
that
says
answer
here, no expansion of existing centres or industrial areas will occur in the residential zone as a result of the development, so... Anyway, all right, thank you.
Councillor Smith?
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. My question is, with the 5G, there was a lot of health concerns when it first came out, but that seems to have died down. But my question is, you said up to 3 service providers can locate on the tower. Does that actually multiply the EMEs by 3, and would that still be, within Australian standards? Because this is what happens. You approve one and then all the others jump on board. I mean, it happens everywhere.
Through the chair, no, that doesn't increase the EME levels. It just means that instead of having 3 possible towers located next to each other, there's only one and they're all using the same tower.
Okay. So does an application like this have to go before the authority first, and then that gives them a pathway into the application? So that was approved first, was it, before they put the application in?
Through the chair, I'm unsure of the process for telecommunication towers prior to being submitted to council.
Okay, but they have seen the application.
Sorry, through the chair, who's they?
It's our PANZA or whoever the authority is on EMEs. We're saying that we can't bring that into the equation. Well, the people that do that, have they seen this application?
Through the chair, they will have to, yes. So they set the standard, so they will be involved in some way.
Okay, so it goes to them after we decide. Yeah, I'm just trying to get, if it's already been before them or not, that's all.
Through the chair, again, I'm sorry, I don't know the process either before or after council, before it gets submitted for assessment for council.
Okay. Now, my next question, seeing it doesn't meet the at least 5 acceptable outcomes, and if it ends up in the P&E court, will we be, do you think it would stand up if it was approved?
Through the chair, it hasn't met the acceptable outcomes. However, it's met the overarching performance outcomes. I believe it would, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Smith. Councillor Rutherford, then Councillor Latcham and Councillor Wickerson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I was wondering whether the property owners have agreed to this?
Through the chair, yes. So they have actually been involved in the process more than 12 months ago. So they have been in consultation with the applicant for over 12 months, and they actually sent out letters to all of the dwelling houses in the surrounding area over a year ago to let them know what was happening prior to the application being submitted to council.
So, Mr Mayor, I also believe that was the rifle range, so I do wonder whether what's left on that site could react with the EMEs.
It's, through the chair, as far have done reports, it's not listed as a site that has explosive.
No contamination on the site?
No contamination.
I thought there was, because it was the rifle range.
That might not be, is that regulated by state? Yes. So that is, that's regulated by state, and their reports are showing that it's not, it's
not contaminated land on a register at all.
Levels,
it's just a block of land.
And then probably one more, and it's to Amanda, because I guess we've sat at this table, or I've sat here for a long time, and we've always been told that the planning issues don't set precedent and aren't used as precedent. You just said that there is already precedent, and it's being used to justify this one. So why sudden change?
Through the chair, sorry, I'm not sure what you're referring to there. Do you mean the...
Well, when we make a decision and we go, is this going to set a precedent for other decisions in a similar boat, we said no, each planning decision is made on its own.
Yes, that's correct. So each application is separately assessed on its own merits, and, obviously we take into a broad... when we do our assessment, obviously assessment of the area and obviously each issues issues are different for every site depending on their location and so forth, and their zoning and any site constraints. So yes, every application is assessed on its own merits.
But you just used the 12% in other locations as
Oh,
justification.
Oh, no, we
for
didn't.
this one.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so we didn't use that as justification in particular for this one, but I just wanted to provide an example, and we didn't use that as grounds in our approval. That's not in the report anywhere. I was just using it for an example that you can have telecommunication towers close to residential without there being that approved under the regulatory organisation that approve it, that are close to residential, that within safe limits of the EME report. So yeah, it was just an example that these are co-located with residential development throughout the region. So yeah, sorry if that was misinterpreted, but yeah, not in regard to grounds for approving this particular application, but just giving you an example of what's existing within the region.
Okay, Councillor Lutton,
Thanks, Mr.
Councillor
Mayor.
Wilson, Councillor Kirkland.
Through to Amanda. Just following up with that last answer, so my question is there an approved minimum distance that they need to be away from residences?
No, it all goes on from what my understanding as far as we have our acceptable outcomes in our planning scheme, which we do a performance-based assessment on. But as far as the regulatory organisation that talk about setbacks, I don't think it goes by how close, from my understanding, how close it is to residential. It depends on what's being emitted from the tower. So obviously if the tower, wasn't within, well, they're all within safe levels because otherwise they wouldn't be constructed, but that would be what would be considered then. But yeah, as I said, most of them constructed in a way that, depending on where they're located, that they're all within that safe level. And this one's well and truly within a safe EME level with the report that we've received.
Okay, and just to follow up on that one, so we've already mentioned sterilisation of that area potentially, and that's why the minimum distance, if there was to be a subdivision in the future,
Yeah.
Is it possible it could be pretty much in the backyard of someone's property?
Well, when we're assessing that application for residential development, we would look at amenity impacts. And yes, as far as the emissions from the EME from that tower, it would be safe, within the safe guidelines, to have residential near it. But we would obviously just looking at it from a visual amenity perspective, and that would be considered in the assessment of the subdivision application. But keeping in mind the owner of this land is leasing that proportion of the land to the developer, and they're, from what we understand, have no plans to develop that land for the time being, hence why they've entered into an agreement, into a lease agreement.
Okay, thank you. Just mentioning about letters to the residents from the Baptist Church. So I've been advised by the residents that, yes, a letter was received by the immediate neighbourhood. The problem is, are you aware of where they had located this proposed development on that letter?
Through the chair, no, I was not privy to that letter.
So as I understand it, the initial letter showed it very close to Norman Road itself and next to the units at Parkside Place. And for that reason, then residents started selling up and going. So I'm just saying the community, I don't think, was given the appropriate...
Question?
The question was, were you aware of where they had located it initially? And that was a confusion for the community.
Yeah.
So the answer is no?
No, through the chair, no.
Okay. Councillor Wickerson?
Thanks, Mayor. Probably picking up on a few things, but the question is, does council have any avenues or procedures where we can go back to the property owners to negotiate the precise location of the tower within that whole lot? I understand that the need for it, of course, but also take on board the concerns of the residents, whether that's founded or not, but they have concerns about it. And the first thing I saw when I saw the site was the same as Councillor Rutherford's. It seems a shame it's been put nearly equidistant right in the centre of the site to try and keep all parties happy, I guess, is the aim of it, with no immediate consideration of future subdivision. And I know that's not our realm, but it would seem a shame to quarantine a big chunk of that land right in the middle of the city, basically. So if it were, say, negotiated that it moved closer to the other side of the oval. You can see at the back of the Baptist Tabernacle, it's still no closer to the lower residence. There's no residence in the tabernacle itself. So I guess the question is, can we negotiate with the owners a little bit to say, well, have you considered this? Because then it might free up for future use the balance of the land.
Through the chair, yeah, there's no reason why we could not do that. We would have to change the plans as if it is approved, they will be approved as per the site plan submitted. So it would need to be updated and negotiated. But yeah, there's no reason why we can't.
I don't know the technology of it, whether that would impact the effectiveness of the tower or make no difference at all. But and even the visual amenity, would it make it worse for people maybe on the other side of Norman Road? I don't know that either, but just something to be considered, possibly.
Well, yeah, does that trigger more consultation to see whether there's impacted residents on the other side of the road?
I imagine it would, because we're changing it for other residents at the lower end.
You're going to run into the same...
They would need to do new reporting on that, yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Wixon. Councillor Kirkland?
Oh, thanks, Mr Mayor. I couldn't find how many megahertz it is. It's probably there, but how many megahertz is this?
I am sorry, I do, through the chair, not have that information on me either.
Okay, because my next question is about the other towers that we've got. Number one, are they 5G? And number two, are they similar megahertz? And
is that every
you don't
tower?
know
Which towers, Councillor?
the towers that Amanda alluded to are within the 12% EME or have a 12% EME.
Yeah, through the chair, obviously if they're a higher percent, I'm assuming they would be higher. Yeah, again, this is not relevant in our assessment of our application. We're not looking at the EME. That report's been provided and that's regulated separately. But yeah, the ones that would be, as I said, the one that I'm aware of that I've received an EMA report on previously was 12%, so I'm assuming, and it was 5G, so it was getting upgraded to a 5G tower. But as I said, yeah, it isn't relevant to our assessment. We're only allowed to assess it against the benchmarks in the planning scheme and any other relevant matters.
Okay, thanks, Amanda. The bottom, the cooling towers there, I see that they're in there for maintenance twice a year. They would go 24/7, I'm assuming, the fans for cooling?
Correct, yeah.
Is there any fire hazard that you identified with this, given that it's in a forestry type area, like a heavily vegetated area?
Through the chair, I believe that they will be built to the standard that they need to. They have cooling fans and generate just about as much noise as an air conditioning unit. So it would be like an air conditioning unit fan going.
A whir.
Yeah.
Going all the time, 24/7. Okay. And the fencing, the 2.5 metre security fencing, how far out was that from the amenity?
That would be right at the base of the tower.
Right at the base of the tower.
In the leasable
and
area.
My next question is, how far apart is the co-location that they talk about of the three carriers?
Yep. So they actually sit. So this is the tower itself, and then the co-locators, for example, Telstra, Optus, they actually will then have their aerials coming off these sections up the top there.
Will those aerials make it higher than 30 metres?
No.
I've asked about the fire risk, and in submissions, when you have submissions of people who are concerned about things like health, devaluation of properties, poor public consultation, how many submissions asking that? I know you've got 18 submissions in, but what's the benchmark with our planning scheme as to something that's a red flag for us, and we really need to be reactive and responsive to the community's concerns?
Through the chair, look, there's no particular number. We're looking at their concerns and addressing those concerns. So we might have one submitter whose concerns we may have trouble justifying. It's not a matter, so that's why how can I explain this? Sorry, I'm trying to explain it an easy way, but yeah, if we have 200 submitters, as long as we can adequately address their concerns, there's no set number. As I said, we might have one submitter that we've got to do a bit more work with addressing their concerns and have regard to that when we're assessing the application. But yeah, with this one, we've had 18, which I've had many more than that that's been submitted against an application before. And as long as we can adequately address it against the scheme, and you've got to remember, we can only assess it against, consider the submissions that have planning matters. So we can't refuse, for example, refuse something because the submitter has some concerns and it's not a planning matter. So we can only base, we're only obligated to address the concerns that are planning matters, because that's what we're considering and that's what the assessment is having regard to.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Kirkland. Councillor Wickerson, then Councillor Latcham.
Mayor, can I foreshadow an alternate motion that we laid on the table till we have a further discussion with the property owners? Because there's some other advantages for them as well. The shorter access road to it, a shorter electrical connection to their metering point.
That's up to you, Councillor. We'll go into that one if we want to go into debate. Councillor Latcham.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Can we just go back to the people who had submitted, just a map, if I could, please? That one there, thank you. So, as you can see, a lot of the, or at least half of the people who have a boundary to it were notified. My question is, other than the immediate neighbourhood, the immediate people who share a common boundary, was there any letters sent out to the neighbourhood advising them?
Through the chair, that's not a requirement from the Planning
For
Act.
sure, okay,
So
that's fine, I understand that.
yeah.
I was just wondering if there was, given this is pretty sensitive in nature to the community, thought maybe it might have been a bit more broadened out. But I know it's not part of the process.
Yeah. Through the chair, no, I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, we're just seeking some information on Councillor Wickerson's position there. Again, we're not the property owner. We're only basing it on the assessment application, and it's very, can be a problem. And then, we do need to spend more money doing more consultation if you move and impacted people on the other side of Norman Road. Who's going to take on that cost and time? That's the other thing, timelines about this one. I'm just finding that out to see if that's an option. No? Councillors, there's no further questions through to Cathy on this one. Can I seek a mover and a seconder with regards to the officer's recommendation? Move Councillor Mathers. I'll second. We're into debate now. Speakers for the recommendation, Councillor Mathers. The foreshadow motion.
Can't hear, Mr Mayor.
Sorry?
Can't hear, Councillor Mathers.
No, we've got a mover and a second with the officer's recommendation. If that's not successful, then a foreshadowed motion. Did you have words to the foreshadowed motion? Did we need to have that before we go into? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Righto. Righto. Speaker for the motion, Councillor Mathers.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. Look, these are always uncomfortable, and I understand that for the residents that are there, but it's also infrastructure that's going to be needed moving forward. I've spent quite a bit of time yesterday talking with Doug and Amanda about this and asking similar questions to what we've all discussed. But the main thing that I'm looking at in regards to this, Mr Mayor, is the fact that, out of 100% score of what the authorities are saying is at an acceptable level of EME, and I understand we're not supposed to be talking about that, but let's be honest, that's what everyone's worried about. That's what the constituents are worried about. That's what we as councillors are here, because we know that that's at the forefront of people's minds. The way I look at justifying in my mind is the fact that out of the 100% safety range there, we're talking about an average here of 1.7% of 100% of safety range. And also, like Amanda described it to me the other day, was that the EMEs are more like an umbrella. So if you look at some of the distances, it's actually being further away from the tower actually gets a slightly higher percentage than what it does being closer. So if someone wanted to have a backyard within 50 metres of it, they would be experience less of the EMEs than what someone would 200 metres away. So I understand they're still being exposed, but we're exposed to this every day of our lives, living quite a way away from one of these towers. So I understand it's a bit of a hot topic, but once again, I think it's infrastructure that we need moving forward to make sure that we can offer these services to people.
Thanks, Councillor. Thanks, Councillor Mathers. Councillor Wickerson, you're able to foreshadow a motion if that's the alternate
So
motion?
the motion and also argument against?
Oh, well, you can speak against it, but yeah, in debate you're able to foreshadow a motion if this one's lost.
Okay, thanks, Mayor.
So speakers against the motion? Councillor Wickerson?
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I absolutely agree that we need this amenity for obviously the black spot that needs to be addressed there. And while I don't share the concerns about the electromagnetic emissions from it, I understand that there are people that do, and people are entitled to that. So what the intent of my alternate motion was is to at least create time to have that discussion with the property owners, and while we don't have jurisdiction over what future subdivisions they do or whatever they do with their land in most regards, just to create that opportunity to bring to their attention the advantages to them by maybe moving this tower still within the same allotment, but maybe closer to where the tabernacle is proper. So I'm suggesting on the back side of the oval, still no closer than what it was to properties of the north of the property, but now to the south. Shorter access road, shorter service line to the metering box, doesn't quarantine the bulk of the site for future subdivision if they so choose to do that. So I don't see any harm in creating time for that discussion with the property owners, just to bring to their attention, not that I would for a minute block it if they weren't interested, but just to create that discussion around it before we bring it back to the table for a resolution.
There'd be a cost associated with that, Councillor, that's all?
Yes, I'd be interested to what that is. Yeah, it is.
Okay, speakers for, and I'll speak for the motion again, echo Councillor Mather's comments that these are requirements now when everyone's got one of these and we work from them. And the need to have that coverage is a problem that we hear quite often from people that are in those spots that don't have that connectivity as what everyone else has in their space. So these things are based on the principles of the planning grounds. We're not coming into the risk with the health concerns, and on that principle, I support the officer's recommendation, as we have numerous towers across our business area and our residential areas. Speaker against the motion, Councillor Kirkland.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I have reservations about this, mostly about whether or not the consultation was extensive enough to give those people who are in the zone consideration of this particular application and time to respond to that. I'm also probably mostly concerned about that land use being able to come back and be able to subdivide or use that for something else further down the track if this facility is in fact sterilising that land. So I would be very happy to hear and support an alternate motion just to have that extra consultation with the owners.
Okay, councillors, another speaker for the motion? No further speakers for the motion. The debate is concluded. Councillor Wickerson, did you want to word a foreshadowed motion?
Thanks, Mayor.
If this one's lost?
I'll keep it fairly simple. Just that the matter lay on the table until further discussions are had with the property owner about an alternate location for the tower within that same site.
Yeah. If I could, Mr Mayor, to help, you'd have to have the discussions with the applicant first. Applicant/property owners.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, because it's two different parties.
Or words to that effect. Yeah.
Okay, councillors, there be no further speakers for the motion. The motion has exhausted. Question, councillor Rutherford?
A question, because the CEO, I thought the CEO had gone away to double check everything was going to be okay with the foreshadowed motion. Is everything okay with the
We'd
foreshadowed
have to go back and
motion?
ask the applicant whether or not they would extend the decision-making period, and we'd
Yep.
do that at the conclusion of this meeting. So if the applicant was not to extend the decision-making period, we would then come back and have the council meeting to decide the matter as it is.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, councillors, I'll wrap up a summary of the recommendation, Councillor Mathers. Close the debate.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, just basically what we were saying before, which is this is infrastructure that's needed now and into the future, and it's something that we, yeah, it's the same thing. If we were running trunk infrastructure, it needs to be done. We can see the black spot that's there, and I think it's something we need into the future for those residents.
Okay, councillors, we've concluded with debate. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion is lost. And councillor Wickerson, you have a foreshadowed motion. Can we record those names there, please? For the motion. Yep. Just record my name in support of the officer's recommendation. Councillor Mathers, you wish to record? Yep. Just record the myself and Councillor Mathers as support of the recommendation. Councillors, foreshadow motion. Councillor Wickerson, have we got the words? Or we've written the words down there that you conveyed before.
Alternative motion, or the would become the motion if you're going to move in a second. The matter lay on the table pending discussions with the applicant and property owner on an alternative location on the site. That would something grant notice.
Okay, move Councillor Wickerson. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Rutherford. Speakers for. I think you basically said in your recommendation as the speakers against. Speaker against?
Mr Mayor,
Yep.
community, I've listened to the community, the immediate community, and while all of them agree that this is important infrastructure and it's much needed in our community, unfortunately they don't want it in this area. And yes, I know it's NIMBY, but I believe we should be looking at other alternatives, probably away from residential, that is not as close to residential. So I can't agree with this one, sorry.
All right, another speaker for the recommendation. No further speakers. I'll put the recommendation. Those in favour? Those opposed? Do we wish to record? Councillor Mathers and Councillor Latchman record their vote against the motion. The motion is carried. We'll move on to our next item. Councillors, we want to take we might take a 10-minute recess. Councillor? Okay, 2 more matters. We'll roll out and we'll get it done. So we'll move on to our next item.
Mr Mayor, I have a perceived conflict of interest in this next one.
Okay, we might record that, councillor, and we'll move on to that item. Oops.
And I apologise.
We didn't catch that at the start. No, that's fine. We lost that.
Okay.
So if you'd just like to provide that information, please.
Perceived conflict of interest with the applicant as the Queensland Cancer Council of Queensland. I am this year involved as the face of Relay for Life, which is part of Queensland Cancer Council. So while I don't believe I have any role in it, I would just like to have that recorded as.
I think
it's either, sorry, Mr Mayor, if I could, it's either a declarable conflict of interest or a described conflict of interest. If it's none of those, it doesn't need to be on the table as such.
Okay.
Yeah, and it really, I think it's so far removed from what you have been through to what the matter being considered by the council table. But we can put something in the minutes, Mayor, if you wish.
I'd just like that because it would be...
Just if we acknowledge Councillor Fisher's role in the as the person for the Relay for Life for this year, 2022. Okay, thank you. We move on, Brendan, with the application for 11.6 for an MCU for building accommodation, 6 units. Thank you. That's it.
That's good. Good morning, Mayor and councillors. Hopefully this one's a bit quicker than the last one. Katie, was there a PowerPoint presentation for this? So this is an application, a change application to a 2007 development approval for the approval which established the Cancer Council facility on Upper Dawson Road, 37 to 43 Upper Dawson Road. So the proposal is to amend one of the conditions which requires 21 on-site car parking spaces to 20 on-site car parking spaces. The applicant requests to remove that car parking space closest to Upper Dawson Road to facilitate a recessed electronic sliding gate for security purposes. So the proposed change satisfies the minor change test. It complies with the requirements of both the 2005 scheme, which was originally assessed under, and also the current car parking rates under the 2015 scheme with performance outcomes. Did a couple of site visits and there was sufficient on-site car parking spaces with some surplus. So on that basis, we recommend the change application be supported and the condition be amended to require 20 rather than 21 on-site car parking spaces.
Okay, thanks very much, Brendan. Councillor Mathers, did you have any comment on that one?
Happy to move.
Happy to move. Seeker seconder, Councillor Wickerson. Councillors, any questions? If not, we'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Gee, you did a fantastic job, Brendan.
Yeah, Kathy got the hospital pass, so...
That wasn't any disregard of that one. Thanks everyone. We'll keep on moving while we're on a roll. We'll move to 11.7, the Derby Street, Denison Street intersection, proposed black spot program funding.
Mr Mayor, could I suggest that after discussions with Peter that the matter be referred to the next infrastructure committee?
Yeah, and with Councillor Smith online and her essay that she provided us, I think it's something there that we need to probably talk a little bit more in depth than
That's up to the council now.
Up to the council, so Seeker mover, Councillor Wickerson.
Oh, yeah, no, happy to move that we do that, but just also it might give us some opportunity to get some of the other costings back. That was a bit of a concern for me. There's a few unknowns in there with other agencies, QR and others.
Yep. We might get that, but we've got to remember safety in the first instance as well. So we just move that black spot funding program be moved to the next infrastructure committee meeting on the, I'm not sure, next week, is it? The 19th. Councillor Kirkland?
Just that there's no time frame on that black spot funding.
I'd asked Peter that, and he said that a week's not going to make a lot of difference, so we'll give us a bit more time. And Councillor Smith back on deck, we can work on that one and get some questions and answers out in that space. So I'm happy to move, and Councillor Wickerson second, that we refer the matter back to the Infrastructure Committee on the 19th. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Thanks very much, councillors. Just give me a second, move on to my agendas. No notices on motion, no questions on notice, no urgent business. There is a legal matter that we need to move into closed session to deal with that one. So could I seek a mover and a second of that? The meeting that in accordance with the provisions of Section 254J3, the Local Government Regulations 2012, that the local government may resolve to close the meeting to the public to discuss confidential items such as the councillors and members consider necessary to close the meeting. And I move that I'm happy to move. Seeker seconder, Councillor Wickerson. Just let the ladies catch up on that. I'm on the roll. That's all good. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? And I'll need a mover and a seconder that we move into closed session. Councillor Mathers, second, and Councillor Kirkland. I'll put that. Thanks very much. Those in favour? Those opposed, the meeting will now move into closed session. Thank you.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Okay, thank you, councillors. Councillors, could I seek a mover and a seconder with regards to the officer's recommendation that the council resolve to receive the report, endorse the submission lodged on behalf of the detailed and attachment into the report? Moved Councillor Fisher, seconded Councillor Rutherford. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, there be no further meetings. Can I thank our minute takers and for the agenda for keeping up with us this morning. With that said, I'll catch up with council with another item after the meeting and close the meeting. Thanks very much for